Good morning, everyone. We are here for the Board of Selectmen meeting for August 15th, 2022. Our first selectman is out of state today, and I will be running the meeting. And first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Charles?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is public forum, limited to 3 minutes on any agenda item. Anyone in attendance interested? Anyone on Zoom? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Next item is we have an item to add to the agenda for, it's the St. John's Episcopal Church is looking for an opportunity to use the green. It's a Bluegrass Festival.
Just a sign.
Oh, it's just a sign. I was looking for that. Oh, sign application. So a request to use the sign on the green. Can we add that, get a motion to add that to the agenda?
Second.
All right, we'll put that in down on request for use of town property number 8, section 8. Okay. Next, we have a number of minutes that are outstanding, and I think we have enough folks, I believe, to move forward the July 12, 2012 special meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to remove that? Do we have the right
I was
people
absent,
here?
so I can't.
I'll move.
I know at least 3 of us.
I'll move.
Second.
Good, second. Any comments or suggested changes to the minutes? I had none. Any hearing, we already have a motion, a second. All in favor of the minutes as presented? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, those are good.
And
You're recusing.
I'm recused because I wasn't there.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, we have another, we need another motion to remove from the
I'll
table.
move them to
July
July
18th.
18th.
Do we have a motion second? Sure, I'll move the
I
second.
wasn't
I'll
there.
move the second. Right? You're.
I have no issues with doing anything.
So we would need a motion to approve the minutes as
I
well.
did.
No, we took from table.
Oh, okay. I'll move the minutes, do that.
I'll second it as well. So you have had a chance to go through,
Yes.
you good to go?
Yeah, good.
Okay,
All in
Sandy, it looks like that was,
I have
that
to
was 2 for
abstain.
2 as well.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right.
No, I have no comments. Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks, everybody. That's all in favor is aye. Those are approved.
All right.
Aye.
And then our last meeting minutes, August 1.
Moving to take them off the table?
No, these are just,
Oh, just, all right, I move to approve because I
Thank
was
you.
there. I'll be sure I was there.
I'll second.
thanks. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
You weren't there, that's right.
Okay. Minutes are squared away. Brings us to Ms. Malavasi.
Ready?
Good morning.
Morning.
Lots of stuff for
Lots
you
of
guys
stuff
today.
from you.
Yes.
Typical, every August. So what I'm presenting today is final June 30, 22 numbers, both revenue and expenditures. In addition to that, we do not have reports for July, but we have the warrants for your review if you have any questions. I also have year-end transfers and some other items to clear up June 30. So
Okay.
we jump right in, I guess. So the first thing on your agenda is revenue. At the end of the year, June 30, 22, we are 102.1% collected on our revenues. We have obviously been seeing this coming for many months. So we have a surplus at the end of the year, unaudited at this point, of $2,165,214.
In revenue.
In revenue, yes. Mostly made up of tax collection, but as you can see, all but 3 small, very small line items have surpluses in their revenue lines.
Great.
And I'll just note that if you remember through the budget process for next year, we did adjust many of those lines, the ones that we felt were going to be perpetual moving forward.
Mhm.
And we're still waiting for that operating transfer in as well. Right, this, oh, that's Board of Ed, I'm sorry.
The Board of Ed has a number of transfers at the end
Yeah.
of the year typically.
Yeah.
Kind of their
No, the,
surplus kind of
right.
moves around a little.
the operating transfer in was $50,000 that the Board of Finance used to reduce the expenditure budget by bringing in from fund balance. We
Okay.
do not need that, so we'll be putting money into fund balance as
Got it.
opposed to the need of coming out.
Got
That's
it,
what
okay.
that operating transfer
Thank
is
you.
for.
Could you
And-
just,
Go ahead, Charles. Of course.
could you just refresh me, I mean, under tax collector,
Mhm.
we're 101.1% over, but we have a minus of over $1 million. Can you refresh my memory on that one?
Well, the minus means we've brought in more than budgeted.
It's actually a plus.
So,
It's like this accounting.
right, 'cause-
Well,
Counting wall of
But
mirrors.
I'm looking under remaining revenue.
correct. So a minus a minus in revenues is actually over more revenue brought in than budgeted.
So my
So,
question then is, if we're at 101 now and we still have that remaining,
Hmm.
is it gonna be more than 101? And is that simply because of old taxes that were due or something?
we're not expecting any real changes to any of the revenues. All of the tax collection and all of the revenues that we know about or could think we were have coming are already reflected.
What
So a
does
minus,
remaining mean?
so we had a budget of 99,000. We brought in 100,000+. So we were over our surplus by the 1.1. That's not money to come in yet. That's more money than, that's the
Well, I guess
surplus.
the word remaining is what I'm
Right.
struggling out, but that's okay.
Right, throughout the year, it's how much is remaining to bring in. This is the final, so,
Form.
Okay.
right, yeah.
The last month or two, the parens start showing up.
Correct.
If we've been successful.
Right, and we've talked about almost all of these departments and their
Yeah,
revenue and
it's
why
just
they're
the
over
word
budget.
remaining is throwing me off.
Sorry.
Confusing.
Yes. I like to throw out a zinger every once in a while.
See if we're reading this.
There you go, there you go. Otherwise, like I said, we've really talked about all of these line items. Should not be a surprise to you today to see these numbers. Any specific questions on the revenues? All
Thank you.
right. On the expense side, so I have two representations of where the expenditures are for June 30. So the first one is just titled, as of June 30, 2022, unaudited. This is where on our computer system, the numbers show today. So as you see, we are showing overspent by $115,597 or 100.1%. And you can see where those numbers are. Again, all items we've talked about throughout the year. I'm just going to jump ahead to the other report that I have, which is called Adjusted for Pending Transfers. So all of those transfers from fund balance and within lines that we have on the agenda today. If you and the Board of Finance were to approve all of those transfers that I have on today's agenda, the balance would be where we are at 79,305. As you should remember, I have been reporting that this is the year the expenditures I expected to be pretty flat, and we are. So our surplus is the lowest it's been since I've been here, and probably for maybe a number of years even before that. So the town has, after these transfers, a balance of 61,647. The Board of Ed 17,658 for a total of the 79,305. So all of the line items that have something in the pending transfers we'll be discussing throughout, when we do that particular item on the agenda, but I certainly can answer any questions now as well.
Yeah, so you and Matt have been through these extensively, obviously, the decisions on what to transfer and how to get there. Or is this your,
Yes, Matt's been away, so
Yeah.
he didn't see I sent him the final last week,
Oh.
but
he's seen them, even though he's not here today, he's
for-
seen them is the point.
we knew they were all coming. So specifically, anything that we're transferring from fund balance or from another area, he is well aware
Yeah.
of. The ins and outs throughout the budget to balance it, less so because,
That's your
that's
bailiwick.
just, right,
Okay.
yeah. That just needs to happen as part of the whole process. But he's well aware, as you should be, of the transfers, because I've been talking about bringing money in from technology and different areas. So those we're all aware of, because I don't use any of that fund balance money. I use the word use, but without all of you and specifically Matt knowing that we're doing that. So as you know, throughout the year, somebody will come and will say, well, we're going to use technology money. Well, this is the time where now we're using that technology money. So yes, Matt would know about all of those. He would be aware of all of those.
Fabulous, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, where do you want to take it next then?
Anybody have any questions on any of the warrants?
No.
Okay, alrighty. Let's skip the medical and do that after, let's just get it out of the way, because we'll spend a lot of time on the other. So this, the medical for the first month is
Yeah,
somewhat difficult.
it's an odd
Anthem,
month.
yeah, Anthem has to catch up with their system for the new year. As you can see, last year we didn't have anything, but they changed their computer system last year. So the first month is
It
a
looks
little,
slow, but that's not necessarily
it's a
accurate.
little difficult to have it be a real representation of where we are. So
So fair to say we might need even 3-4 months
correct,
to kind of get a
to
sense
really.
of the rolling balance.
Exactly right. After the first of the year, we tend to start off slow getting the data from Anthem.
Okay,
All right.
but nonetheless, the fund balance is in, the medical fund balance is in good shape
Correct.
and where we should be at this moment.
Absolutely. So the fund balance at the end of last year, if you see at the bottom, I have at $4.8 million.
Wonderful.
You know, that's after transferring the 1.5 to OPEB and doing all everything we've talked about, the slim nations coming, all of that. So that's where we stand unaudited as of the end of June 30 on the medical fund.
Great. Anybody else have any other questions on medical?
Now that we have different, high deductible, I forgot the words. that we use.
HSA.
High deductible HSA.
Right. When do we fund that and when does that show up? And does it show up in this budget?
As part of the budget process, you're talking about the money that we put into the HSA accounts, that's budgeted through the general fund as part of the budget process. So the medical budget that you approve in the general fund includes the HSA. It is not part of this particular budget.
Goes directly to the individuals.
Certainly a discussion that could be held and a different decision made, but both the Board of Ed and
What
the
is
town
well, just, could you record?
could be about $300,000.
And that's just a regular amount every month based on our employee census.
Well, it's twice a year.
Okay,
And it's based on union contracts. When we first went in, we were putting more into people's HSAs, and over the 3-year period where the percentage that we put in is less.
which was negotiated.
Correct,
Yeah.
all negotiated contract,
I remember the certain logic of doing it through general fund was that it is an operating expense. It's an operating expense used for medical purposes or can be used for medical purposes, but for running a town, it is, a necessary expense.
right. But again, certainly a discussion we could hold for the next budget round, whether
No, I think
the money,
that
you would, so we would put, what we would do is we would put more money into the medical fund, and then the expense of the HSAs would come out of there.
I don't have a problem with the way it's set up. I just think, at any given point when you're having discussions of what the taxpayers are funding for medical expenses for town employees, that should be
Right,
part of the conversation,
and-
which way it comes out of.
And they are seeing it, because it is budgeted in the medical line, so right now, so I'm just gonna use round numbers.
Yeah.
We have $1 million that goes in,
Oh, wait a minute, so.
so say we have $1 million that needs to go into the medical fund, and we have $300,000 that needs to be paid out in HSAs. 1.3 million is budgeted in our budget. the HSA money
That's,
is,
that's gotta be reminded of that, because in the budget cycle, it is in the conversation, but
Correct.
in this monthly report, it's not.
right, because that 300,000, and again, I'm using round numbers, so I don't, want to be quoted. That 300,000, right now stays in the general fund. And in July and January, when we pay those out, it comes out of the general fund. The other option would be to take that 300,000, put it in the medical fund, and then July and January, we take it back out.
I don't have a
But
problem with that, but I'm
the
glad you
people are
pointed
paying-
out that in the budget discussion, it is in there.
It is,
Yeah.
correct. We do budget for it, otherwise
I remember these things.
yeah. I'd be off a lot more than 74,000. I'd be short a lot more if we didn't budget for those, so, but yes, we can make that very clear, during the budget process, so.
And then anybody else on
No, I'm all
this
set.
section? So you've given us the capital fund reports. They
Yep.
look like things are on track, winding up.
Yeah, and we did, you know what, I meant to put together a report on our bonding. So we did bond, for $4 million, in July, got a very good rate. We expected to be over 3, we came in just under 2. So we got a very good rate on our bonds, another almost $400,000 in premiums. Those premiums we use to pay the interest on our short-term bond anticipation notes. We use that money to pay for the issuance costs of the bonds, so we don't have to budget additional money for that. And then whatever's left over, we put in our fund balance, and that's what allows us to mitigate the amount that we're paying every year over year from the general fund. So we had a very good, came out much better than we had anticipated, so.
Great.
I'm sorry, I gotta go back to medical.
Oh, medical, okay, yeah.
How did we, I don't expect exact numbers or anything, but how did we turn out last year in cases that maxed out? Was it a good average or bad average in last year?
Trying to remember, I think it was like 42%. It would be in last month's, just pull it up from last month. It would be in your last month's packet.
It actually.
I have it, I don't have anything there today because there was none, but if you look in last month's, which was the end of June, there were 25 members over the 75,000 mark, because that's where we start to.
How does that compare to other years?
Lower, a little low, and well, that's about right.
Because you hate
I
people
know.
to max out.
Actually, that 25 is about right. We had 7 over 150,000, and so that's usually a little higher.
Okay,
And we were at 45% spent of our
again,
stop loss.
I know this is you're not gonna have exact numbers, but of those, how many are continuing cases?
I wouldn't know that. I have no access to who or what they are. I only know the numbers.
The only reason I ask is I know when the contract said, it resets, everything resets, so.
Right, I do know that when we were working on the 22-23 budget and we talked about that lasering, remember that whole big discussion about lasering? There was discussion regarding 3 that were ongoing. And those were the 3 that we were lasering. So I would say the answer is probably 3. But again, that's not data, for HIPAA, there.
Yeah, I know,
So
yeah. That's why it's so sensitive to ask the
I
question.
know, I only see
like to get
line
it down.
items of numbers. I have no,
Okay, so we're not overwhelmed with it. That's my biggest.
are not.
concern.
we
That
are
we
not,
have some ghosts in the closet that we gotta worry about, okay?
none that have been brought to my attention.
Okay.
I'll put that might be, Mitch might have some, but even Mitch probably
That's
doesn't
fine.
know. I don't, because we're not supposed to know what that is.
I'm here. I have no further information than what Mary Jane has just given you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody else on this section, or does that bring us to the transfers?
I think so.
Great.
All right, so I'm just gonna go, I think, out of order from your agenda. I'd like to do the fund balance transfers first. And the reason for that is because that is going to be covering and giving a truer picture to where the line items are at the end of the year. Because like, for instance, in IT, they're showing overbalance. All of that money was expected to come out of fund balance. So once we bring that money in from fund balance, they are no longer over. So I'd like to start there. Find my paperwork, I'll be good. So we have, it's the one that has two areas. So we have transfers from fund balance going into departments that have overages. Again, these overages are budgeted overages. We knew they were happening. And then the bottom part of that report is transfers from money that was left over, it's surplus items that we are transferring into fund balance. And I'll just reiterate what I would have said a year ago. Through our auditing process, historically, Guilford has issued purchase orders at the end of the year to carry money over for future use, things that hadn't been spent. Say we had a car or something, you know, things that through the auditing process, that was just not the proper way to go about it. So we now put money into carried in force. Yes, it's items that weren't spent in the current year that the department heads expect to spend in the next year, but it is part of fund balance as opposed to just being a purchase order that's lying out there. So we'll start with the top. The first is information systems. We've been talking about the technology fund time and time again as things come forward. We've given a few of the items here. We updated our website. We added budgeting to the ClearGov. We're working with the Board of Ed on employee self-service. We had to add two-factor authentication because of cybersecurity. And if you remember, you did that polling. I forgot what the issue was, but through Zen City, you polled the residents on something, and that
Cannabis.
is that the cannabis? Is that what the poll was for? Good. So that was $63,000 that we have brought in, that we're looking to bring in from technology. The next item is town properties. The fire hydrant, if you remember, our fire hydrant prices skyrocketed. Well, the year before that, we had a surplus. We knew that we were going to have this increase. We specifically set that money aside to cover the surplus. That $121,000 is coming back out of fund balance and going into the 2022 amount. And we have increased our budget for 2023, hopefully, to cover that. The next two items are retirement sick leave and reserve for personnel. Some of our contracts still allow for sick leave to be paid out upon retirement. We budget a small amount for that. We budget an amount for that in our regular general operating budget, but we also know we have fund balance. So Mitch works on that each year. Say we need $100,000, but we know we have 40 in sick leave, so we bring in fund balance. So we need to bring in 40,300 to cover that. Reserve for personnel through the contracts again. Remember in 2022 it was the year of all the contracts came in late or were negotiated and finalized after June 30 of 2021. We did budget an amount for reserve for personnel. We also knew we had money in fund balance, so we didn't have to tax the people for that. And here we're bringing that in $79,400. The next are capital items that again that were approved for use from fund balance. The first in engineering was the Clabbered Road that we're bringing in from the road project fund balance. And here again, additional information system, some of the similar items, but the biggest here is Energov. This is the new permitting system that is being used at Town Hall South. The majority of that $190,000 is Energov, but we've also added the Zoom room over at the community center so that we can, when we have our Board of Finance meetings, they're done in a similar fashion as we are here this morning. The police need a new server. We used that money. We added extra video in this room. The PACE project was something we did with the Board of Education. It's through Munis. We contract for training. We get a low rate. And we've done that with them. And again, some additional capital items for the employee self-service. So that,
Can you just tell us, I know there's a lot today, but can you just tell us a little bit what Energov is gonna do for the Town Hall South?
Energov is just purely a permitting software that all of the departments in Town Hall South will use. It allows them to go out on their iPads and do that, and it also has a workflow. So anybody here? Yeah, well, maybe so. Somebody from Town Hall South may be able to help answer the question. But so again, I'm going to kind of make this up. But so at Town Hall South, somebody comes in for a permit. It may affect the building department, the planning department, inland wetlands. There may be a lot of different departments that need to sign off on that through the Energov system, permitting system. It's more of a workflow. So the building department approves it, and then the planning department gets an email that says, this is for you to approve, and then they approve it, and then it gets to the next department, so.
Rather than a clipboard with triplicate forms.
Correct. Rather than contractors having to come with 6 copies of everything.
So that's what I want to say publicly. The bottom line is, this is going to hopefully expedite the process of contractors needing to get permits.
I want to say it's been a huge undertaking
Right.
by everyone at
So it may
Town Hall
not all
South.
be,
It's not
right,
coming together maybe as smoothly as we thought, but it's a huge, it's a major,
Right.
major change, right?
It's a big undertaking
Yes.
that will have several,
Right.
sort of
so it's
ripple
not there
effects.
yet, but when we
It
hear,
works with me.
when you hear complaints from, that we could be more efficient and everything, so this is a big step to becoming more efficient. Even though it's like not there today, but
Correct.
do you think it'll take a year?
Well, it's
Yeah, I mean,
Hard to say.
I'll put it at 8 months maybe, I
Okay.
think, but to make it all an online process, I think would be very beneficial to our applicants.
and
Like the core system, I mean.
it is, and Lou, I heard your question about whether or not it interfaces with Munis. It is a Tyler project. It is a Tyler
Power technology.
Technologies system, as is Munis. So yes, I've been in on a lot of the, most of the time I just sit and listen, but we're there, it does interact with our Munis financials because they're both products of Tyler. So they're not on the same platform, but they speak to each other
Yeah.
because of that. So, and that was the reason, that was one of the main reasons they went with Energov. Because of that, we felt that would be a better way to do all of our processes. So, but yes, to answer your question, it does.
Awesome.
But it's been a big undertaking, and also as part of that process, if you remember, we had everything scanned in their offices so that everything would be online. Part of the process is people can come in, you have a computer, right, that two computers that people can come in and see older information online. So that scanning process was very extensive. It's all included as what we call the Energov project. Even if not all of the money's going specifically to Tyler, it's all part of the process. We had to do some GIS work so that Energov's GIS system could interface with ours. It's, like I said, it's a huge undertaking that when complete should and hopefully will be a much better system for people using it here at Town Hall, for our employees and the public.
Listen, I think increasingly the world views these types of things as being available electronically, and if we weren't gonna get there soon, it would have been a problem, so
Mhm.
commendable, I know it's a ton of work, so thanks
Yeah.
to everybody.
You have to commend everyone at Town Hall South.
Yeah.
It, you know, obviously IT and finance have been a part of, working to make that done, but the department heads and the staff at Town Hall South, tremendous effort and hours and hours and hours of work.
Mhm.
So they need to be commended for all the work that they've done for them.
Great. So we're in the middle
All
of
right.
these transfers.
Yeah, so
Do we need to take action on that?
well, I can keep going.
Oh, you're not
I'm-
done. I'm sorry. We stopped you at Energo. Dead.
We went sideways.
Yeah.
So the last thing under capital is some facility projects. We had some small engineering work done like over the 65 Church Street, things that weren't specifically budgeted, but we have money for facilities. So that's 1,541. And then the last item is debt. It's the interest on our bond from 8/1/21, 12,723. That's coming in from that future bond payment that I mentioned. We put the money aside from premiums. We estimate what that first interest payment is, and we estimate it at a time when interest rates were a little bit lower. And so we were close, we're only off by 12,000, but that money will come in from the future bond payment account. So those items total $592,964. And you can see in the other column, as I stated, coming from technology, facilities, sick leave, road projects, bond payments, and reserve for personnel. So coming from our committed fund balance accounts into the general fund to cover those expenses.
I have two questions that are related. For the most part, there's a really clear, obvious connection between where it's coming from, where it's going to, but the one that isn't like that is really the fire hydrant increase, which was unexpected, we didn't budget for it, and I see it's coming out of facilities projects. That's part one.
Yeah, okay.
And then part two is, are we comfortable with what we have left in all these categories of committed fund balance after these are made? I don't know if you have that available to share with us, but do we have enough left in these categories to do with whatever we're planning on doing?
Okay, so I'll answer the fire. We specifically moved the surplus from the fire hydrant line in 2021 into this line called facilities.
We did, okay.
So that is
Okay.
that, and so that was a specific, we had a surplus in 21 and we knew in 22,
Perfect,
we weren't, that
okay,
it was gonna hit.
okay.
So that money,
Okay.
yes,
I don't
it's,
remember that,
we-
but great, okay.
we already had a line called facilities projects,
Mhm.
so that's the line we put it in, but absolutely, we put that money in there
Okay.
specifically for that.
Mhm.
And the other answer is yes, we still have, and I can maybe at the next
The next
meeting, give a
meeting.
report to where we stand.
Yes, that would be great, yeah,
Perfect,
and then
yep.
just any specific things that we're
Yep.
planning on spending those amounts on.
Yep, yep.
Just- That'd be great.
As a follow-up, where do we stand with inflation and the hydrant costs next year? What do we anticipate?
Well, we've budgeted what Connecticut Water has told us. So
Well, they have to be a regulated.
It's regulated, yeah,
They can't do that every year.
inflation doesn't just change their accounts, they have to go to the regulatory board to make change to their amount, so.
Is that every year or like every
No,
3 years?
You know, it's every year, but yes, it's a regulatory thing, but it also is the cost of hydrant. It's a calculation of size of the pipes and pipes.
Sure.
And with the calculation of the development that we have on the books, which is substantial, that would change that calculation. I mean, are these 3 additional major developments that we have in the works going to require X numbers of more hydrants?
You're correct, I do not have that budgeted into these numbers, future development.
But that's not, even if they,
But I don't know if it's gonna need, I'm not sure,
If you have
That's
X
where it is.
numbers of units,
Right.
they're not gonna be approved next year.
Because I'm our representative in New Haven, you know, I know how the hydrant thing works. And Connecticut Water is a private company, so
Well, you know,
They're driven differently.
You're talking about the housing on Hubbard Road
Any
and then the
housing.
condominiums on Whitfield Street, and what's the third big development?
Boston Post Road,
West Post Road, Hubbard, and
Boston Post
south
Road.
of
2222
Across
by
from
the Red Roof Inn.
Oh, yes, okay, but they're not all gonna be finished in 22.
I don't know.
And I don't know how
That's
many
what
fu-
that's why I asked the question. I don't know, and I was wondering if we were anticipating a substantial jump like we
Yeah.
just
I
experienced.
don't know how many fire hydrants are planned, unlike the Mulberry Point project, where we knew that we were specifically installing a number of fire hydrants in that area, and we, you know,
I
tried
agree.
to.
A couple is real, but 10 is more real.
So this winter, when we're budgeting for 23-24,
Right.
can we have this conversation? Can we have
Yeah,
our company
Yeah,
help?
I didn't mean
Because
to go
that-
sideways.
no, it's
Right.
good, but I think we're a little protected in this fiscal year, because
The year that we're in.
even if everything goes swimmingly, I can't imagine all those things being done by June of 23 or before.
And then they don't,
For next
and then we don't start paying for the fire hydrant until the January 1st after they're installed. I don't know how or why that works that way, but like with Mulberry, regardless of when we were done, July 1, it goes on our books.
At this point in time, Connecticut Water is not anticipating any big surprises like they did last year.
All I can say is the budget I have is what we worked on with Connecticut Water for 2023.
Thank you.
I have a much more basic question. I'm sorry. Do you have the transfers from, there's two different categories, committed fund balance and then assigned
Yeah,
fund balance? Just a 2-second tutorial. What's the difference between those two? Is there really a difference?
I wish I had my other computer because I actually have the actual wording for those. It's classification that GASB, the Government Standards
county
Board,
standards, right?
has, so committed is something that you have specifically put for those line items that you have a project for. Salaries, the reserve for personnel, they put that into assigned fund balance, and I'm gonna get you the real wording, because I have the real wording, and I'm not gonna do justice to it off the top of my head. But if I had my work computer instead of my personal computer, with my work computer's logged in to you guys over at my
Okay.
desk. But there are there's specific rules for that. And the auditors moved reserve for personnel into assigned for that.
Regardless, and thank you for that. Appreciate that
I'll get it
background.
for you.
For our purposes today and for everybody out there, this is money that's been allocated for these purposes.
Correct.
Now, it's been sitting on the sidelines. You're putting it to the use to which they were intended. And we're gonna take that up in a second, unless you have anything further.
You want to do that part first?
Do you want to do them both? To your call.
However you guys want to do it. Want to do
Let's
one,
do those,
okay?
yeah, let's do it all together. So why
Okay.
don't you tell us the rest of what you have?
Right, so at the bottom now we have items in the general fund that have surpluses for items that did not get completed during fiscal '22. We've had a lot of supply chain issues, and we have things on order that are just haven't been coming in. So we have quite a few this year, more than we normally have. So under the capital line, these are all specific budgeted items. It's not just, gee, there's money left over, we're gonna move it. So park and rec building maintenance, that was their fire alarm upgrade and upgrades, a small amount for their upgrades to their bathroom facilities. So that's specific amounts. The next is the town hall carpeting that we budgeted here to do a project. We're having a lot of issues with that because it's asbestos issue, a lot of problems with that. So we're gonna hold that aside for another time. Park and field maintenance, it's a specific drainage project at Bittner, I believe. for that. And Public Works vehicles are one piece of equipment and one vehicle, I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but specific that we have yet to been able to acquire this year. That's all from capital. Under legal, as you know, we're in revaluation, budgeted some legal needs for this year for reval. It was going forward and moving forward. Found Attorney Barrett has asked to hold this money over since it wasn't used this year. We are anticipating potential higher number of people coming back to us on their assessments because of where prices are on homes at this point. So he has requested that this $21,000 that he did not use in the current year be available to him next year because he is, like I said, anticipating higher number of items. We had an item open in engineering and public works. You'll see some line striping in 2 lines. We were unable to get that line striping done. It's not something we can contract and just say, come tomorrow and do everything because it gets done as road projects are completed. So in engineering and public works, they're requesting that line striping be held over. Summer road maintenance, there's $50,000 left in that account for work that was not taken care of this year. Our new director is eager to get some projects done that are on the table, and he was a great choice. That's all I'm going to say. He was a fabulous choice. He's ready to get that work done. Same thing with winter road maintenance. That is mostly salt. You can see the categories on the other side. Equipment and repair, $28,200. It was tires and lubricants that hadn't been purchased. And the reason the tires weren't purchased is because I think Tom came to you one time with and told you how much the tires had gone up in pricing. Huge, more than 100% the prices went up. And so Tom was reluctant to go out and do that because of the pricing. He was hoping the pricing came down. And so we're putting that aside. And again, the line striping. And then you can see on the other side that we have moved these items. There you'll see the building maintenance, the carpeting, the field maintenance, legal, vehicles, line striping, summer maintenance, tires, lubes and parts, line striping, and salt. Specifically, the salt, which is coming from winter road maintenance, the new public works director is moving towards a more salt concentrate than a salt sand mix. So he's specifically looking to purchase additional salt. So the fact that this money is available is where that request came from. So these total $397,672. So we have 592 coming from fund balance into the general fund, and then about 400,000 coming from the general fund going back into fund balance at the end of the year.
So when we do ultimately purchase these items, will those purchases go through your normal reporting and then be replenished from fund balance?
These will go into, we actually have a special fund, like the capital fund, specifically for these items, and it's very specific. So if we budgeted for a specific weed whacker, it can only be spent on a specific weed whacker because of the way this money is held. So it's a special fund. It has to go through all the purchasing, so you would see all of those purchases, but the money would come directly from these funds. It would not come through the general fund. This is a separate type of fund, similar because it's similar to a purchase order where that money is held for a specific thing. And our rules allow us to use this money as long as it. So if they wanted to buy a truck instead of the weed whacker, now we have to go through all the you know, we have to come through more processes and put the money back into the general fund and use it in a different way. But this.
But when you say specific, I mean, for example, the tire example that you used.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean we have to buy that tire, we can.
No, but it has to
change
be
to
tires.
what it has to be
Right,
tires.
they have to buy,
Have the tires come down in price.
that I don't.
So these items, these items from a year ago at this point have all been spent.
A lot of it has been spent,
Okay.
yes, yeah. 2 years ago, almost every dollar has been spent. Last year, there are still some funds available for things. I'll give you one example. We are moving more money into town hall carpeting. This was the balance needed to finish that project. So we have 65,000 in this carried in force. We had hoped to complete. Over time, the pricing went up. This 12,000 was to complete and add the money needed to that project. Again, the project stalled here at Town Hall. So that 12,000 will be added to the 65 we already have. And, you know, hoping that project will move forward.
I hate micromanaging, but I'm just gonna ask a question, because I remember the discussion about asbestos in the carpeting. And back in the day when this was first carpeted, believe it or not.
Oh.
I was around. My understanding was if you didn't pick up the tile and covered it, it was okay. It sounds like that has changed.
I really can't.
I thought you had mentioned that it was.
Oh, right, correct, that's the issue. So and I don't know a lot about it, but I'm assuming
It's become a
it's,
problem.
it is, I'm not assuming. I know it's the issue. So like down closer to my office, down there's not asbestos, but up here there is.
I think,
I
yeah,
don't
there's
know
gonna
the
have to
history
be
of this building,
asbestos
but-
abatement, and I think the problem is these rooms
The use
are
of
gonna
these
have to be, people are gonna have to be moved out for a period of time in order to have this happen.
Right,
No, I understand that
Yeah.
part, but I just remember the discussion when these rugs were put down. And back then, the decision was made, if you cover it, don't disturb it, you're covered. But it sounds like that's changed.
I don't know. We'd have to have a conversation
Yeah,
with
it's
Steve
like-
Nydorf.
I don't
That,
wanna-
that's
I remember that
above my
happening
pay grade
with
for
the
this
library.
information.
There was certain parts that if you just didn't disturb it, you didn't have to have it removed, but I know, I
Sounds
don't.
like, yeah, I don't wanna get sidetracked.
Actually, in this respect, it
That's
was,
just more than I know.
you put
I'm
the
sorry.
carpet down, solves the problem 15 years ago, or whenever it was. Now that you gotta take it up, maybe that exposes the problem and you gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
It's, the bottom line is, whatever the solution is, it's within the money that's been
Correct.
allocated.
Yes,
We're just moving it from one stack to the other.
correct.
Awesome. It's important stuff, Charles. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. I
Interesting.
apologize. I don't know.
agree.
If you're working
Covering
it,
up
you
the
wanna-
problem, I struggled with it back then, covering it
That's
up,
what I say,
you know, you're just putting it off, kicking the can down the road.
Don't disturb it. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, about these, again, hate to micromanage, but the salt isn't really making sense to me. Would we normally have purchased salt before June 30 of 2000, the current year? I mean, that would be buying it. Obviously, we're using it for the future. Why? Why would that have been budgeted in 1 year to use in the next year?
It wasn't budgeted. Normally we would buy this salt at the end of the year and stockpile it for the coming, whatever's left over. So we have a stockpile to start.
Maintaining the stockpile.
That didn't happen. It didn't happen.
I remember Tom often coming in the summer to get approval to buy salt.
But I could see if it was after July 1st, because then it's in the same year in
Yeah,
which you're
yeah.
using it. So this is a case then, when we're putting money in 1 year, out of 1 year's budget, without intending to use it in that year. Must be.
But we used, my
bought what they
understanding
bought
of
what
that
they
is
needed.
we're maintaining the stockpile. So that, yes,
That's always
we
the
are,
same.
we buying salt this year to use next year?
Got
And
it,
we
okay.
also use this year salt that we
So-
bought to use.
As long as we always have the same
Right.
amount, it doesn't
That-
matter.
that was
Right.
my
Makes
understanding.
sense.
So,
Okay.
so they probably had a
I see.
stockpile at the beginning of last winter, and then they bought what they needed for the winter, and then they would have stockpiled, and, during the transition with,
Mhm.
the last couple of months of the fiscal year, we were in transition with Tom leaving, and, so that didn't happen, but it probably, if Tom were gonna be here long-term, he probably would have
Done it
used
already.
that money.
Okay, got
like I said, the new public work has a different idea on how to do things, but, he specifically, out of all these items, that's the one he knows he's,
Yeah.
because he's hoping to use more salt than sand, whether that's a discussion you guys wanna have, that, I'm not trying to stir the pot, but that's the
Well, it
reason
does
for
occur
that.
to me that obviously there's, the effect that's gonna have on roads and waterways and stuff, I mean, but presumably that's gone through, but it'd be interesting to hear from him and
Yeah.
we can, I think, comfortably let Matt know that it's something we're curious
Well,
about.
if you really want to get into micromanaging, we started the transition years ago from salt to whatever that new process, that liquid salt or whatever it is. And that's, we had to go to all stainless steel trucks and all of that. I mean, that was very destructive.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
So we may be hearing from our Public Works Director a little bit, which would be good.
Those,
Good to hear
those,
from everybody. from
those
time to time.
micromanaging questions you need to ask somebody else about. I can tell you the numbers.
It's not micromanager, it's other manager.
Other manager.
So,
Okay.
thank you. There's a lot. So we
It's a
have
lot.
two separate transfers, but we're gonna take those together. Can we have a motion?
I'll move.
Second,
Any further discussion from the board? No, that sounds good. Thank you for that detailed, clear presentation.
These will also be on the Board of Finance agenda this evening.
Fabulous. Okay,
Matt can be there today?
I think he's flying in today. So, good
Not
question.
answering your question, but.
He didn't answer. I'll put it this way, it's not on my agenda
There's
yet.
somebody, oh, it's not.
I don't have an answer to that either. I don't know. if he's-
So we'll see. All righty. So,
maybe he's gonna zoom in from home
it's possible.
because might be a little tired.
Right. So somebody's covering it, so, okay.
I'll confirm with him. It's a great question. So,
I'll be there.
Helping.
I have set the stage for all of this with them. I go into far more detail with them because, because they're the
Numbers are
ones
the-
that they're the ultimate ones that give us the money for it, so,
Right.
okay.
all right.
So we, as I understand it, we have a motion and seconded to recommend these transfers
Mhm.
to the Board of Finance, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Do you have another one?
Yes, so after all of these transfers that we're aware of are done, this page really gives you the picture of where budgets stood at the end, with the overages, true general fund operating overages, as opposed to the ones where we had money set aside for things. So the first is natural resources. We talked about this. Additional tree maintenance in the amount of $9,000. Guilford Lakes Golf Course, again, they had that significant tree damage and maintenance on equipment. Their overage is $33,200. I'll just note that they brought in more revenue than to cover that, on the revenue side. Fire department, as we've spoken, significant overage, $557,100 in replacement salaries, overtime, and maintenance. And I will just let you know that I had the chief and the assistant chief at last month's Board of Finance meeting to specifically speak to them about this. As I tell
My
you,
understanding is the issue is not so much what the cost is, because I think at this point, most people understand the cost issue, but is to actually budget for it. That,
well, this year we had a couple odd things. So we have somebody out on medical leave, and then
Which kicks up the replacement.
which we have to replace that person. We have another person out on military leave, we pay that person. We also have to pay the replacement of that person. So we estimated close to 300,000 of that overage is just to replace those types of employees that we have no choice. You know what I mean? So is it a budgeting issue? Okay, maybe some of it's a budgeting issue, but maybe, 18 months before the budget starts, we don't realize somebody's gonna be out on maintenance, on medical leave. We don't know somebody's going out, being, sent to wherever on military leave. that's hard to budget. You know what I mean? We typically do budget on maybe a rolling 3-year average, so a high year like this, you know, we'll bring it up, so yes, maybe the budget was slightly low, but I don't know if we would have ramped it up that much for those things that we.
Unforeseen.
Correct, you know, because we're not gonna say, well, maybe we'll need another 300, let's just add it just in case. We would never do that. So, you know, and that was the discussion even at the Board of Finance meeting. So, but like I said, you know, we've talked about this budget for the past few months. The Board of Finance has spoken about this budget for the last few months, and that's why I brought in the chief and the assistant chief to the Board of Finance, just to, you know, have a conversation on where they stand and moving forward. So when I go to them tonight, the Board of Finance is well aware what this number is already. And they already had the opportunity to have that discussion with them, so.
The medical leave, we're paying someone's salary for a year on medical leave?
Yeah, again, I don't know the specifics, behind that. But
Because it doesn't go into long-term and short-term disability or any.
again, I don't know the specifics, but, that's just,
But more importantly, we're paying a
we're
replacement.
paying
for
a
that
replacement.
person.
Yeah.
That's the,
Okay,
that's
all
the
right.
number.
Yeah.
So
Digs up.
the big, it's not the.
Not paying that burden.
Right, I get it. I'm sorry.
Although that money might be showing up in another account
Correct.
in some way.
Yeah.
Assuming, is it, do you know if it's comp or is it?
I don't believe it's workers' comp.
Okay,
Um,
but we still may.
Sandy,
oh,
Yes.
we can discuss that offline as a personnel issue.
Yeah.
All right.
Got it. That's all right. Thanks, Mitch.
I'm not asking any more questions.
But Mary Jane is correct. It's the replacement issue that she's referring to. We do have significant replacement issues there.
The one that, and these categories always get conflated and they're so, and we've had very helpful explanations from the chief in the past and the assistant chief. The OT is assuming OT is a significant piece, and the 3 items are linked in one category, so I'm not sure. It seems to me we have additional staff with North Guilford and plus, and yeah, I would be surprised that, OT to me seems to get resolved by having more staff in place. So if that's a big number, I guess I'm just curious why that would continue to be big with the additional staff that we have.
It is a big number. It's 96,000.
Yeah, okay.
And again, I'm not sure I can answer that specific. Gladly bring the chiefs back in for another conversation. They are on the pulse of all these numbers.
I'm sure they are
You know what I
acutely
mean?
aware of it.
So unless Mitch
The
has
way
any.
my-
No, I think it'd be best addressed by the chiefs, but my understanding is the difference is, OT is when someone is kept over, an incident has taken place and the person is kept overtime to finish up that whatever incident was, a fire or emergency, EMT treatment, something like that. The replacement is when someone is out, and they have been replaced by somebody else, whether it's for vacation, whether it's for workers' comp, when their staffing levels are lower and the regular person who's supposed to be on that shift cannot take that shift, someone else takes it, and that often will go into also overtime, but also just picking up that shift is the replacement cost of that.
But the question, I guess, for today, and this is drifting into budgeting stuff, I appreciate that, but is that overtime of 96,000, is that in the neighborhood of what we've expected year over year? Or is that an unusual thing this year, and is there something that's happening that we should be interested in?
In that case, I don't know, and I think best to have the chiefs address
I
that.
think we should go back to asking a presentation from the 2 chiefs. I mean,
Right.
I realize we could have gone to the Board of Finance meeting to hear it, but I think it would be helpful because those 3 numbers are fairly large,
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to ask the origins again, or the history, or whatever
Right.
you want to call it.
Okay. But for today's purposes, the money's available. These are internal transfers
Yes,
within the existing budget,
correct.
the balance accounts.
Mhm. And in total, relative to our total budget, it's pretty modest,
Correct.
really. One of them's huge and we knew about that all.
Right, and the other
But
ones.
the other ones are
are
Pretty
small.
good.
Yep,
completely
Yeah.
routine.
yep.
Okay, so we all have an opportunity to learn some more from fire leadership,
Okay.
and we will, I'm sure. But for today's purposes, does anybody else have any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve these
I'll make
transfers?
the motion.
I'll second.
I guess, once again, we're recommending them to the Board of Finance, is what we're doing.
Mhm.
Okay, motion seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a lot.
Yeah.
She's not
I
done.
told you it was a lot.
Oh, she's not
She's got
done.
one more thing.
We want you to stay as long as you like. FEMA,
This is good. You must be very happy to
Yeah.
bring this to the board. This has been your goal.
So I've let you know in the past that I was working, my staff and I are working with FEMA to close out some of these old things that have been sitting on the books.
Yes.
Since I've been here, we've brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've worked many hours recreating payrolls, going back to Irene in FY12.
Right.
So I've detailed here for you so that you can see each line item, each of the disasters, how much we expended, how much they reimbursed, and how much FEMA did not reimburse. And that's typically, something back in 12 and 13, FEMA's process was a little different. You said to them, we're gonna do some work and it's gonna cost us $200,000 and FEMA would give you $200,000 and then you had to prove you used it. Well, sometimes you didn't. Sometimes it just didn't need to be done. And that's kind of, if you look at Sandy, there's $55,000 there. We had, during Sandy, there was some, I wasn't here, but you guys might remember some problem at the beach, at Jacobs Beach. And they needed to redo something there. And we had a quote from a company to do it. And then the town ended up doing it themselves. So we had told FEMA we were gonna spend more and they gave us that and we weren't reimbursed. So that's what happened during Sandy. But anyway, so for all of these storms, Irene, Sandy, the storm in 2013 that wasn't named, ICAS, and the windstorm that we had in fiscal year 21, the county, New Haven County, did not suffer enough combined financial distress for us to be awarded a FEMA disaster relief.
Oh.
So we have, and here we only had $5,000, but in the anticipation of a FEMA project, we moved the money into FEMA. We were not funded. No one in
$4,782.
right. So we were 47, and if everybody was 47 like us, it's just not enough for FEMA to come in and do anything. So these are the 5 storms. Other than what we have left is COVID, and that we're working on. And so I'm requesting that we close these out. As far as I'm concerned, my staff and I have done everything we can to get these money. We kind of identified where the differences are. We know kind of what was happening here. If you storm ICAS, you'll see they reimbursed us more. We had some expenses in our general fund that we missed transferring out at the end of the year. So it didn't get into our FEMA, but we were reimbursed for those. So I'm showing that.
Are we literally sending that back?
No.
You could justify it. It just didn't show.
It's not,
They're accounting.
we spent it. It's just it didn't get transferred from the general fund into the FEMA fund.
So we're in good shape.
All
with
of these
FEMA.
are complete. FEMA have
Happy.
closed every one of these out.
Okay.
They're all closed. Any money that we had left on the books, like the 55 and 30, I have signed off with FEMA that we are not, we're done. We're done looking.
But the town has spent it already. It's not
Correct.
like you're looking for 55,000 and 30,000.
I'm not looking for that.
You're
But
closing books.
correct. And if you remember, I did come to you a couple of years ago and said, I'm working on this. And we've set money aside in fund balance for disaster relief. The number of something like $300,000 that I had anticipated having left. And we have 94,796.06. So it came in about 200,000 less than I had expected, because of a lot of the work we've done. And that includes work with the marina, Rod's here, extensive work we did try with FEMA, trying to get the money from, for the dredging, and so
So-
this is all included.
So you're saying these are closed out,
Yep.
but do we have more in the work?
COVID,
COVID.
oh yeah,
But
COVID,
no
COVID, but I mean, we're still, I'm still
No,
filing with FEMA,
Still
so.
going on?
Absolutely, I have an open one now for the last vaccine clinic that we
So
did.
just COVID or,
Right now, it's just COVID, it's the only
That's
thing
great.
I have left.
Good work.
nice job.
So
Yeah,
these will just be, these are off our receivable, definitely
Mhm.
receivables there, so we know, and we know they're not coming in, so there's no sense in having them.
Yeah, so let's just go, I think the good work should be emphasized, because just, I remember once having to do something for the library through one of these, and just the little bit that I had to do was like very complicated, and then the finance has to extrapolate that and do, it's very complicated.
Yeah, it's not easy working with FEMA.
It's nice to have them there, but they got zillions of requests
Correct,
from
you know,
everywhere, and they're got limited amount of money for massive problems.
Yep,
So,
yeah.
well done for representing Guilford's piece.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion? Sandy?
I'll make, or second, excuse me, Sue made, Sandy second,
There we go.
SR.
Any further discussion on this matter? Close out the FEMA projects? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Thank you
Okay.
this time, for real.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Brings us to our patient dockmaster who's witnessed most of this meeting so far today. Rod McLennan?
Yes.
Hi, Rod.
Hello.
Have a matter to discuss and take possible action to approve an agreement with Race Coastal Engineering for bidding and construction phase services for the maintenance dredging project at the marina, and to authorize the first selectman to sign contingent upon review of town council. Tell us what's up.
We looked at doing the dredge bid documents ourselves and decided we didn't want to tackle that. I requested proposals from 3 different engineering firms, and only Race came through. The rest didn't comment. And we're kind of under the gun time-wise, because we have to start dredging in November. So we need to get out to bid and select a contractor and sign everything up in between now and then.
So
Last
the
week.
other two just never responded?
No response.
I'm a little concerned about the continuity thing, but that's what it is, that's what it is.
There is a conflict with one of the consultants that we have used in the past. The reason he didn't bid is if one of the dredgers does bid on it, then that consultant will carry the performance bond, which kind of wipes him right out. And there was a redesigned proposal that I got from legal that I forwarded to the company to ask them to approve, and they were all on vacation last week. Kind of happens in August.
So is the proposed rates here, is this, do you have familiarity with the last time? How often does this happen? I'll start there.
Ideally, every 5 or 6 years,
Okay, so-
realistically, 7 to 9.
So you've been through this.
Yes.
Okay, and is this in line with what we've done in the past, regular expense creep
Yes.
taken into factor?
Mhm.
So it's not like out of, and this says, am I reading this correctly, the total for this stage of the process is 23,205? Am I reading that correctly?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's not just bid documents, that's for the management.
The management, the pre and post dredge surveys.
Okay, that was gonna be my question. So they're doing pre and post.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Race?
I have not used them before. I know
They've been. in
the town
business.
engineer has in several projects,
Oh, okay.
and she approved of them.
All right, well, I've never heard of them before, and I've been involved in other dredging things.
They have bid on some projects that the marina has done before, but they haven't been selected for various reasons. But yes, I am aware of them and their work.
And they work for the town.
They have been
Yes.
selected for other.
Right.
They have done work for the town.
Okay.
And the marina,
This is, excuse me, this is Steve Goldschmidt. I don't know, in passing, Janice had worked with them and was very satisfied in Branford. And so she recommended that we go ahead.
Good.
and this is all
Thanks,
paid
Steve.
for out of marina funds.
Okay.
Fabulous.
This is the smallest part of the dredge.
We imagine.
Yeah.
And what is your timeline here? You said November, it's gonna be done by November?
No, we have a dredge window of November to February 1st.
Oh, and what's that, what imposes that?
Spawning flounder.
Oh. Wow, okay then. Glad I asked that question. Anybody else?
Okay,
Wonderful.
and these folks are going to do the pre and post and keep track of how much gets done, yardage and all of that.
Yep, and all the required documents and
And, okay, and this is offshore dumping and all of that kind of stuff.
yes.
And how about who's going to manage the operations on and off land and all of that kind of stuff? That's your responsibility?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Race Coastal Engineering for the bidding and construction phase for the maintenance dredging at the marina. I sort of
Apparently
shortened that.
subject to the approval of the documents by Mr. Barrett.
Once we get the modified document.
Right, Pete, hi Pete, thanks for chiming in.
Hi, yeah, just wanted to, yeah, make sure you knew I was here. So, Race did send along a contract, it's fine in many respects. There's some provisions that, typically municipalities would not, engage in those particular provisions. So we've made some edits. We've got it back to them. I don't anticipate a problem, but I do request that it be approved, subject to town council's approval of the form of the contract.
Okay, so if you did come up against an absolutely unresolvable problem with the documents, that would put a stop to it, and we'd have to go back and find somebody else. Is that what it boils down to?
We would notify the Marina Commission right away, and the Board of Selectmen as well.
Okay, but if you manage to iron out everything to your satisfaction, the idea here is we're going to approve this subject to your checking off the documents.
That's right. And I'll do an email or something confirming that, the contract's good to go.
Great, thank you. Thank you. It sounds like you guys are working well collaboratively. Okay, anybody else? And we have a motion and a second. Okay, any further discussion? No, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, thank you. Great,
Thank you.
taking care of our wonderful resource down there.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
On this next issue, without Matt here, I still.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
Is anyone here online from Zen? Tracy, do you have any idea? I don't see anything. So
No.
I'm perfectly
did.
comfortable pushing this ahead, tabling this. Do we even table it? It hasn't even come up. We'll push it ahead to the next,
Yeah.
to the next meeting. I mean, it hasn't even come up to the table, so we're fine. We'll address that at the next meeting, Tracy. Just roll it over to the
We're
next
aware
agenda.
of our December 31st deadline, but I
In
think
the middle of
I
August,
think
we've
we
got
have
enough
time to
give.
push it out.
Mhm.
Important to have Matt here.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Probably even gonna require a workshop or something.
Right. All the more to work into his schedule. Thanks, Charles. Everybody's good with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Appointments and resignations. The first item is a recommendation to appoint Gloria Gibney to the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission to fill a vacancy which is set to expire on September 30th, 2024. There's a recommendation from the RTC. Do we have a motion? Okay. This happens from time to time, I'm told. Anyone? Okay, I only do a few meetings a year, so this makes it interesting. We have no motion. So I think we advance to the next agenda item. Okay. Thank you all. The next item is act on a recommendation to appoint Richard Evans as an alternate to the Economic Development Commission to fill a vacancy for a term set to expire April 30th, 2026. Do we have a motion? Anyone from the board? Okay. Once, twice, no motion. I will move on to the next item, which is act on a recommendation to appoint Dan Lamberton to the Standing Building Committee for a term to expire on June 17, 2022.
I think that was maybe a typo.
It
right?
does look like a typo because the actual item says Golf Course Commission.
No, but if you
No,
read
it's really
down on the
confusing.
second paragraph, that second paragraph of that
Renominated.
message,
All right.
yeah, renominated for another term on standing building.
Yeah, that's
So
that
that's,
But it
email.
says
Is,
to
email is jumped
expire.
up.
Okay.
I gotta sort of make sure I understand what is being proposed here. The actual email says, "Hi Tracy, attached is an application for the Golf Course Commission. Gloria's application was approved." And then it says Dan Lamberton was renominated. So if Mr. Lamberton is on the Standing Building Committee already, I guess we need a clearer recommendation.
He's on standing building. They were just reappointing him. He's a reappointment. So his term expired. It should be June 17, 2026.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we're gonna override what the email says,
With
the
noting-
first sentence of the
Okay.
email.
So with noting the change of date to expire June 17, 2026, I'll second it.
Right, that's the date, 2026, Trace? Yes, okay. So we have a motion, a second for Mr. Lamberton to remain on or to be reappointed to another term for Standing Building. Any further discussion for Mr. Lamberton? No, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, thank you. Next item is a resignation from Laura Hartman from the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission.
I'll move that with regret.
Second.
Yeah, everyone's schedules are, they are what they are. So with thanks and regret, we have a motion for Ms. Hartman to step off of the Golf Course Commission. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Next item on the resignation of Bill Eggers from the Safe Streets Task Force.
I guess I'll make a motion to accept his resignation again with thanks and regret.
Says he spoke to Sam Gerritz, that he was gonna step down, so, okay.
And then he, I guess,
He contacted
Mitch
Mitch.
happened to get in the call, but yeah.
All right, so we have a motion with thanks and regret. Anybody else? Second?
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? No, thank you, Mr. Eggers. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, brings us to the request for use of property. I'm gonna address the first one here, which was, I mentioned, we added to the agenda. St. John's Episcopal Church is looking to put a sign on the green for the Bluegrass Festival. Request for sign placement, August 15th. So this is literally today. So they were getting it right under the wire. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor for the St. John's Episcopal Church putting a sign up? Aye. Any opposed? No. On our existing agenda, we have an act on the request from the Henry Whitfield Museum to place a sign on the green advertising its Welcome Fest. So this is a sign taking place, the sign placement is going to be, it's for an event occurring September 10. The sign placement is August 27th through September 9. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, thanks. A request from the Friends of the Guilford Library to place a sign on the green from September 9 through September 23rd. The event is scheduled for September 23rd through the 25th. The annual book and bake sale.
Summer's over.
Oh,
I know.
I know, when the book sale comes along, that really is,
Yeah.
rings the bell. So
Did you make the motion?
Oh, yes, I'll make a
I
motion.
seconded it.
Wonderful. So this is for a sign on the green, September 9th through the 23rd. Any further discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. Aye, 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 aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
We have an active request from Park and Rec to use the green October 8th through November 1 for the scarecrows on the green, and October 30th, the Halloween Spooktacular. So there's two items here. The scarecrows on the green. This is coming from Guilford Park and Rec, and it will be, my reading is right, from October 8th through November 1. We have a motion.
I'll move
Second,
Second.
any discussion for that? Oh, that sounds fun. All in favor? Aye. Okay, and then the green use for the Spooktacular. Permission to use the green. This is Guilford Park and Rec. This is I guess this happened many times before. They've contacted, or will contact the police department. It is for October 30th, appropriately enough, 2 to 4 p.m. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Anything, any further discussion? All set? All in favor? Aye. Before we move on to the final sort of agenda items, we do have the executive session, which we're going to touch on in a few minutes. But before we get to that, any old business to come before the board?
Were you going to ask for committee reports? Number 9?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any committee reports?
I have something about affordable housing, and are you here to say something about that as well, or something
I
else?
wasn't, I was just being attentive to your cannabis decisions, but.
Oh, all
I
right,
realize that's
okay.
been-
Jamie already mentioned that we have a Zoom hearing through the affordable housing plan that this body passed in June. We have a September hearing, 28th, a Zoom September. That's not through the Housing for Economic Development Plan Committee, but it's sort of all complements. And then the Housing for Economic Development Plan Committee is scheduling educational, informational presentation at the library on Tuesday, October 18th, to just kind of talk about the various things that are happening in town.
Good.
And have some representatives from the various public, private, not-for-profit, for-profit people that are working in various ways to provide a little more affordable housing. Also, as part of my committee report, Jamie has passed on a good suggestion to me that the Housing for Economic Development Plan Committee be officially commissioned, or is that what you were suggesting?
I'm just following up on Sue's
Oh, did you,
comment
you
during
were the
her
one who said this?
affordable housing plan.
All right.
You did, I'm holding you to it. To
So it
formalize
would
the
be,
commission,
if,
the committee.
if everybody thought this was a good idea, I guess it would become the Housing for Economic Development Plan Commission. Or perhaps change the name maybe to make it a little more understandable to the general public. So, I wanted to have a conversation with Matt about that, and I just haven't been able to. Yeah, because of me being out and him being out, but we're gonna work on it.
Gotta come up with a good acronym like howdy.
I know, or something, I know.
I'm gonna work on that
Yeah,
offline.
yeah. So, that's what's happening.
Yeah, while I understand Susan's point when she made it, and I can agree with it going forward, I'm just trying to make sure that, it has a purpose on a continuing basis, because the commission, it's one thing to take care of individual projects, and we have a lot on the plate right now. But it would seem to me a purpose or whatever for a commission as a long-term goal. I mean, it seems very specific that it's just strictly.
Well, right now, the big focus of this committee has just been trying to get the Woodruff property.
What I mean, we're gonna move beyond Woodruff.
Yeah,
And
and one of our-
addressing the big issue of affordable housing
Right.
in Guilford as a community. I just want to make sure about the overlap with,
Well, I think the committee was formed when the town,
PNC, and all that.
had to wanted to apply for those grants, and you kind of had to have a
Body.
body within the town to administer those grants or award them. or-
My only point is when you explore it with Matt and everything,
Yeah,
I mean, there are
okay.
consequences to establishing an additional
Well, you
commission.
know, it's gonna come before us anyway, so I appreciate what you're saying. But one of our committee members, Mary Jo Kestner, said, you know, we're still like so minutely focused on Woodruff, and hopefully there's gonna be something else to focus on one of these days, you know? So the committee isn't gonna go away, whether it exists as a committee or a commission, I don't know.
I have to think that this is a long-term permanent.
And, oh, I will
Focus
say,
for us.
you didn't know I had so much to say, did you?
No, it's good.
I have one more thing. The town, application for the Sustainable Connecticut Award, we had gotten silver. We went back to bronze only because you have to reapply every 3 years. Terry Kane was explaining this to me, so I'm kind of like Mary Jane with some of these questions. I'm not on that committee, but I was interviewed by Terry Kane in person last week for an hour and a half regarding the town's movement toward affordable housing, because that's part of the recertification, especially to get up to silver and eventually hopefully to gold, or whatever the next one is, platinum, I don't know. So there's a lot of information in that report about it. They wanted to know what we'd done in the last 3 years, and it was difficult because of COVID, and things that we had done prior to 3 years didn't count, even though we had done a lot. So anyway, so this affordable housing is just all over the place here, and, you know, anyway, just wanted to let
What have you done for me lately?
Right.
As long as other people got bounced because of COVID issues, it doesn't matter so much, but we're in the middle of the pack. Okay, thanks for all that.
Okay. You're welcome.
I suppose I also skipped over building permits. Any questions, thoughts there? 4 units out of the first month, that's good. So, old business. Anything else? New business, anyone? And
You just understand though, if I'm correct in the building permits that when you have large projects with multiple units, it still counts as a building.
I asked that last month, I think, or 2 months ago, and I think that was the answer I got back. I'm not sure if.
I'm just looking back where, you know, we have the 73s and the 79s and the 60s and, you know, we've been back running in the 20s and the 30s, so.
But think about it, that's when they were taking 40-acre lots and building
Right.
28 homes. You know, one shot, times 4 throughout town, apparently. So, yeah, these new multi-unit places, I guess, will be a CO for each building. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But it's still gonna change the housing
Change
availability
to me,
demographic.
big a change is the highway going through, but
Wow,
change is good.
okay.
Yeah, I have to admit, we have that other big report from Eunice about all the permits, and I've never understood how that relates to the summary, so I don't.
I know, because I think we asked this question once, and there are actually other, this doesn't reflect all the permits, I think, or
Yeah.
something. Janice
Yes.
said, we can have to ask her again about it.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
you know, I think you gotta have the grand list and everything all at once. I mean, that to really get, you know, what's the change coming.
I've asked about this before, and I think it's some combination, it would be some combination of Janice and our building official. So,
Mhm.
uh,
But even there's a section for the month of July, and then there's another section for year to date. You'd think they'd be the same,
right.
same 1 month into the year, but they're not. I guess I'm just
Okay.
messing up. I don't understand it, but it doesn't seem like it's really that relevant to us. It would be good to know which of this is on the other list, because the other list is a comparison of the years. That seems like a good snapshot.
mhm.
Just don't know how it relates. I don't know if we need to.
Okay. Well, so that's an issue. Well, we will raise those questions and see if we can get a little more detail on that. That one is, that, I've never fully gotten that report either, so. So we had old business with public forum. Anybody? Thanks for staying.
Sure.
Jamie, good to see you. Anybody online? We have nobody that's left online. We will have some executive session, so I guess we need a motion to move into executive session.
So,
Second,
who are we inviting?
It sounds like Gary, Jamie.
Peter?
Well, Pete's not on at the moment, but he's
Okay,
welcome.
I don't know that we need him necessarily, but
Okay,
I know sometimes he sits in on these.
sure.
are we inviting Kevin?
If
Kevin is not available.
Ah,
Okay.
Kevin had a commitment.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are out of executive session. And I am reporting there was no action taken, no votes taken. So we do have on the agenda, discuss and take possible action on potential land purchase. Do we have a motion?
Yes, but what am I saying?
You
I think, we'll move to authorize land acquisition to continue negotiations on 2 properties.
Okay,
Second,
very good. Any further with the, I would just point out, and with a limit on the amount of
Continue negotiations.
continued negotiations. Fine, thank you. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Thank you, Charles, Sandy. Any further discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Thanks, Gary, for all the diligent work. You've been busy, busy, busy.
Can you imagine if we didn't, how much did we give you?
every deal you double my salary.
no, we did $10 million.
I just get mad. Every time Matt
Personal
calls,
remuneration.
every time Matt calls me and asks me to do something else, I say, "You're gonna double my salary?" He says, "Sure." Yeah, the bond is 10 million, but
No, but
that's gonna last
we're not.
a
So
while.
we're back on.
That
So-
will last a good long time, I think.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because we still have a little bit of reserve in the original ones, don't we? Or-
We have a
yes.
little bit left
So
in
we
the
haven't
original
even
one.
started.
We have a land acquisition fund. We have
You
various
find
ways.
grants.
Yeah, grants,
Grants, good
Grants,
things.
various ways of accumulating money,
right.
planning and zoning, fees allocated and so on.
Okay, if there's nothing further to come before the board, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Gary.